All right, welcome to the latest episode of the Colman Power Organic Fitness Podcast. I have my latest guest here in front of me, Maya Clark, also known as AKA the Olive Queen.
Yeah.
Or Maya, I want to say hello to the listeners.
Hello. It's Mia, by the way, but that's
Me,
okay.
apologize.
No,
That's me. So I would like you, suppose, to give people a little bit of a background to what you currently do, and I suppose your whole lifestyle approach, as we were talking about, is something that has not been really talked about enough, and is kind of something that's really new, yet is involved in really old, I suppose, style of eating, more whole foods, and getting, I suppose, outside. And I suppose I want you to expand on what you currently, I suppose, are telling the people on your social media platforms.
yeah, so I talk about like holistic natural living, basically, like toxin-free, whole foods, real foods, simple things in life, like, sunlight and nature and things like that. And basically, I got into all of this because at a young age, I had a lot of gut issues, and going to the doctor didn't help me. So I did my own research and figured out a lot of things. I eventually found like a homeopathic doctor. She changed my life, and she was the one who originally like planted the seed of like you can eat real food, you can eat dairy and meat and paleo, blah blah blah. So I've been through every diet, and it's just kind of ironic after all of that you come back to just like simple living.
How amazing is that? I suppose one of your main ethoses in your, I suppose, lifestyle and your diet would be the likes of olive oil. And I suppose I want you to expand on the point of its benefits between antioxidants, a moisturizer, moisturizing from the inside out, and as well as the fact that it increases the absorption of those fat soluble vitamins. Like, it is the vitamin in itself, being high in vitamin E. But yeah, tell me a
Yeah.
little more about that.
Yeah, so actually that same homeopathic nutritionist, she was the one who told me to start drinking olive oil, and I thought it was the craziest thing. And but I listened to her, I trusted her, just talking to her in person, you could just tell she knew what she was talking about, and she cared about me, and she was passionate. You could just feel that. So I started doing that, and I mean, my body, like, I just started to crave it. I started to drizzle it on all of my foods. I would always have, like, in my college dorm, like where most people would have like alcohol, I would probably have like a giant bottle of olive oil, and people would come in my dorm and like make fun of me and all this. But I just found it super beneficial. It helped my gut stuff like a lot. My gut really started to improve. And just like the fact that my body was craving it, like told me something. So inflammation went down. I felt more satisfied. I felt like things were digesting a lot better. I started to absorb the nutrients, and like back then the olive oil I used to drink like isn't even up to my standards now. It just kind of sent me down a rabbit hole where I traveled to Spain and got to try like really good high quality olive oils there, and just talking to people and discovering the history of it. I mean, it's been used for like thousands of years, which is so crazy. But it's really cool, and it's just a unique food product, and yeah, it's great.
And I suppose, is that something that you have typically first thing in the morning? You're drinking it and with other foods, or you're having it on its own, or what way are you consuming it or recommending it? Being, I suppose, high in anti-inflammatories because of its omega-3 anti-inflammatory.
Yeah, so when I first started drinking it, I was like just guzzling, like drinking a lot, just putting it all over top of my food. Because I just felt like that's what my body needed. But as I started to heal, I don't drink it as much or as crazily anymore. But yeah, I actually, right next to my bed, I have like a little bottle of urban olive, which is the olive oil that I use now, and a little like shot glass type thing. And as soon as I wake up in the morning, I drink that. And then I'll have like my coffee and go on a walk and breakfast and all of that. And I still put it on top of foods, but not as much as I used to. But I find a lot of benefits still with first thing in the morning for sure.
With this, I suppose people, and maybe this is because of social media, saying that fats are high calorie. Do you ever come under that, I suppose, question about, God, they drinking olive oil or using it in a certain amounts can cause certain weight gain or any of those things that people, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually crazy because when I was drinking the most, I weighed like probably 10 pounds lighter than I do now, which is crazy. I think my body just wasn't like absorbing nutrients at the time. And, I've come from a past of restrictive eating, and I think my body really needed the calories as well as the nutrients. But I get a lot of girls in my comments, especially on TikTok, where it's like the younger generation, like the Gen Z girls that are scared of food and scared of calories, talking about how it's ridiculous how many calories olive oil has, how they see me drinking olive oil on camera and they're like, that's crazy, that's like 500 calories, blah blah blah. But I think once, like, in general, once you stop focusing on the numbers, the weight on the scale, the calories, like all of these things that society has, like, especially like science and Western kind of ideals has like imposed on us, that we have to look at the numbers versus like intuition and how we feel and history and culture and all of these things that matter much more. Once you get to that point and that realization, you know, um, it's much easier to just do things the right way. And I hope to like share that on my Instagram and get these people to stop focusing on the wrong things.
What was your diet previously like? I suppose I'd love to let the listeners, I suppose, and the viewers know a little bit about what you were previously consuming and eating and how you were feeling to what you are and eating and feeling right now.
Yeah, so I was vegan for like 4 months before college, and that was when my gut was the worst. I was bloated all the time. Um, so I did do that, and I ended up in the hospital when I went to college. I think just the change in environment, my immune system was just suppressed. So like new microbes and all of this stuff in a college dorm just really got to me. And I remember calling my homeopathic nutritionist, and she was like, "You've got to eat some meat." So I started eating meat, and at the dining hall in college, I had to eat like meat and vegetables and get them to cook it for me separately and just have it plain. So I really got into simple eating. But before that, I was trying to make it super complicated by making all these alternatives like almond flour brownies, and having like the granola bars that are paleo and vegan. Or at one point, I was drinking like protein shakes that were like pea protein, just all this like crazy new food stuff, gluten-free bread. I mean, all this stuff that just is so new and modern. And versus now, I eat like things that are very traditional and nutrient dense and like real, like more closely connected to nature versus like super, super processed, even though they're considered healthy, gluten-free, all of this stuff. So yeah.
That's so interesting. And I suppose with the food, touching on that point, like a lot of people would also be against maybe the fact that eating and consuming animals for sustainability. However, if the things are most certainly local, for the most part, that's something that's actually really not talked about a lot about. Because if we are on that, I suppose, vegan or vegetarian diet, avocado shipped in and bananas and nuts and seeds from all different countries and take up a high percentage of water, it isn't really mentioned enough of. I suppose you having maybe cheese and I suppose liver as other things that people tend not to eat as much of, just because I suppose social media has put the fact out there that fats make you fat or cheese is bad, saturated fats are bad, and liver in itself is quite it's offal meat, and it wouldn't be something that is in people's a high percentage of people's diet.
Yeah. Um, so I think something that's like really helped me, because obviously I believed that at one point, like eating animals is bad, whatever. But once you like actually go to the farms and talk to the people that have been doing this for years, the woman that wakes up and milks her cows for 4 hours every single day, who like has been doing that for 9 years, and her skin is glowing and she's happy. She's not like a lot of these people that are on these, like a lot of vegan and vegetarians, they're just like angry, like they'll come in your TikTok comments and or Instagram comments and they'll just rant. They're so angry. But when you like go and visit a farm where the lady's milking the cow and she's happy with her family and all this stuff, and you see that, and you like realize like that's how it's supposed to be, you know like food shouldn't come out of a package. Like seeing on these cow ladies that are going and petting their cows and just being in nature with the sunshine, and understanding how everything works versus like when you receive these new foods in like a package or like the lab-based meat that people are creating, it's like where does that even come from, you know? Like how is that enjoyable, or like how does that align with your values if you like care about the environment? You're like in a lab that's using a ton of electricity, or like in a factory that's like manufacturing all these like oils and whatnot. It's just, it's crazy to me that people don't see that connection, you know?
And that's exactly the point you touched on. People don't see that. They don't see the animals are grass fed, that they're well looked after. And as a result of that, optimal health comes from foods or the animals that are raised on, I suppose, pasture raised is the label that's put on products. And if more people actually went and bought from the likes of the farm, be cutting out the middleman, the shop that actually takes a high percentage of the sales, which is another thing that people don't see. There's no such really thing as cheap food, because for the most part, it's actually the cost is either paid well before that, either in the soil, either sprayed, the individual who's picking it, whether it be male or female, or the likes of, I suppose, the transport and the product being of a lesser quality than it could have been.
Right. Like you go be like in the grocery stores, like the shelves full of like all these alternative milks that are like supposedly cheap or better for you. And it's like crazy to me how people don't see that. Like that's not, it's not real stuff. And they're just like trying to make money off of food that doesn't have actual nutrients. And they're like making money off of these people that just fall for that and don't like look into it and all of this. Or like you go and buy a coffee and it's $8 now if you want to get an alternative milk, and that's like better for you. So it's like a thing that, you know, people get. If all these alternative milks, if it was actually better for you, they wouldn't like charge the extra $2 and make it like a status thing, you know? So yeah, it definitely is a moneymaker, and it's disappointing to see that people are scared of like raw milk and raw liver. It's crazy.
Mm. I suppose touching on that, you brought up raw milk. What is raw milk for the listeners? Just to break it down, I know what it is and would consume it now that I've improved my own gut health, being an organic grower and a personal trainer. What is it, and what are the benefits to people?
Right. So raw milk is, you know, straight from the cows. Like if you go to the grocery store and get like regular whole milk, it's pasteurized and homogenized. So pasteurized is the first thing that like heats it and kills a lot of the nutrients. So then they have to add synthetic vitamin D or other vitamins into it. And homogenization, um, it like basically changes the structure of the fat so that it's not as digestible or nutritious to humans. But raw milk is non-homogenized, so it just comes as fresh as possible. I mean, you can taste like the liveliness in your mouth. It's just delicious. Tons of nutrients. You know, it's meant for, people argue this too. It's like meant for baby cows to help them grow. Like that's super important, and humans can benefit from that too. That's not wrong for us to like drink cow's milk because it's still very nutrient dense, especially living in today's society when we're like bombarded with all of these toxins and fragrances and shampoos and EMFs and all of this stuff. Like we need those extra nutrients. Some of the nutrients are vitamin A, which is great for your skin. Like Accutane from is like made from synthetic vitamin A. So real vitamin A is like much better for your skin. There you don't have all the side effects of Accutane. It's a perfectly balanced food in fats, carbs, and protein, which is great to have. There's a lot of minerals, bacteria that like help your gut microbiome. I mean, it's just, it's endless and it's delicious. Like it's so delicious. So yeah.
And the cream that literally just sits on the top of it.
Yeah, it does.
Amazing job. I suppose there's other things that you are currently doing on a regular basis, I suppose, would definitely be like some sun exposure, and sea swims, or something that I do see you doing a high percentage of on your social media. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, for the month of July, I like didn't shower because I didn't have a shower filter where I was, and there's like a lot of contaminants in the water, specifically one called Genex, which is like a carcinogen, and you know, the chlorine and fluoride. I was just like, what would happen if I just went in the ocean every day? Like, would I smell? Would my hair get weird? Like, I don't know what would happen. So I didn't shower for the entire month and just swam in the ocean every single day. And I mean, it was great. It was great. Like people don't realize, like, we're told that we need to shower and we need to be super clean and all of this stuff. Ocean is great, like, it has the salt and the minerals, and it's super healing for your body, and, it filters out a lot of the toxins that our water has, which a lot of people don't realize. There's so many layers to this, like, diet, the lifestyle, the water, the shower water, you know, clothing, the materials, the plastics, fragrances, all of this stuff, and it can be really overwhelming, but, yeah, and sunlight too. Sunlight is something that's super simple and that, we should take advantage of. Um,
What are you
yeah.
recommending for sunlight exposure? Because a lot of people would touch on the point that the sun is dangerous and can cause chronic illnesses such as cancer, melanoma, and cause issues with all types of, I suppose, skin health.
Right. So if you're like a healthy person and you have the right nutrients and you're getting sunlight, like your body loves that. But if you have all of these toxins that you're putting in your body, that can, if you have free radicals in your body from seed oils or whatever, like the sun can make those go into your bloodstream or like, make those worse and cause those illnesses. So it's not the sun that's the issue. It's all the other lifestyle factors. If you're a healthy person, like the sun can be amazing. You don't need sunscreen. Your body naturally produces melanin if you're eating like cholesterol and saturated fats and all of these things that are good for you. Your body naturally produces its own sunscreen. That's what melanin is. And there's other benefits like vitamin D, and it helps with your circadian rhythms, especially if you get like morning sun or evening sun, and then you sleep better. um, and it's not like saying that you should be out in the sun all day with like no protection. Like obviously if you're a farmer or something, your skin is like your organ and it absorbs like much quicker than anything else. So you want to be really careful with that because, especially for women, like that can affect your hormones and men too with like testosterone and all of this stuff. So sunlight is great and, done in the right way, it can be really beneficial, especially like if, for tanning, you look better too. Most people prefer to be tan. But you don't have to be in the sun all day, all the time. Like 20 minutes is fine, or some morning sun, afternoon sun. Some people can handle more than others, but definitely no sunscreen. That's for sure.
I suppose touching and expanded on that point, no sunscreen. Listeners would be so keen for you to, I suppose, explain to them for what reason why. I would most certainly agree with you and often use either such lotion as extra virgin olive oil or that has SPF or coconut oil, which acts as
Yeah.
doubles up as a moisturizer.
Yeah. Green is man-made. It's a bunch of chemicals, just the smell of it. Like once you enter this sort of natural lifestyle and you smell sunscreen, it's so repulsive because it just smells so artificial. Um, yeah, it's just not good for your body. It's just like any like prescription medicine that you take. Like you're giving your body an artificial form of something so that your body can't naturally do its thing, like to produce its own hormones or melanin or whatever. You're disrupting your body's natural function, so you don't want to do that. Same thing with like birth control. You're taking these synthetic hormones so that your body forgets how to produce the hormones naturally. So um yeah, sunscreen is just it's not good, and it's a moneymaker. And if you look into like the people who make it and how much funding they have, who they're funding, and all of these things, like you'll realize that sunscreen is not there to help you.
Yeah, like so many people producing a product just to make money to sell it to the quote unquote people who are going to buy it.
Exactly. And it's probably owned by the same company that is feeding you oat milk or, all of these other things. It's all connected. It's just crazy.
It's crazy. I suppose a lot of people will and would look for, I suppose, either hair benefits from foods or lifestyle habits that you have, or skin health. Would you give a couple of listeners, I suppose, simple points in relation to how to improve hair health with individuals, either hair loss or strengthening hair? Um, would love you to expand on that point.
Yeah. So with hair, it's really interesting because a lot of it has to do with like estrogen dominance, which is connected to a lot of these things that I've been mentioning, like, the water, the chemicals and the fragrances and eating the wrong foods, like, too much soy and having all of these estrogen mimickers. So like having too much estrogen in your body can actually cause hair loss. There's a lot of important nutrients for hair, like collagen and copper and zinc. And so, two of the main foods that you want to be consuming is bone broth, which you can easily make. I recommend using chicken feet. It makes it really easy, and chicken feet are not really useful for anything else. So, I find them not useful for anything else. And then like copper and zinc, you can get high amounts of that from raw liver. And raw liver is one of the best things that you can consume for a lot of your problems, because it has a lot of the nutrients and vitamins required to help your liver detox excess estrogen. So that's really important. And yeah, you just get a ton of vitamins. So with collagen and copper and zinc, like doing that on a regular basis, plus time, people have to realize that it isn't going to be a quick fix. If your hair's been falling out for months or you've been, doing all of these things that are contributing to estrogen dominance for years or months, like it's not going to happen overnight. So you have to give it time and you have to do it holistically. You have to implement a lot of lifestyle factors too, like de-stress. You can't be stressed and eating raw liver and expect your hair to be super strong. But yeah.
Are there any other, I suppose, tips in relation to how to de-stress? Because a lot of people would be under high amounts of either work commitments, family, and/or whether they're in college or doing exams. What would you recommend?
Yeah, so I think taking time for yourself and like prioritizing your nutrition can help you de-stress a lot because it does take a lot of time and energy, and that like takes away from like your time doing stressful things. So for like me in college, like I was always super perfectionist and I would get very stressed out up until like the last semester, and I started dating my boyfriend and he was just like what actually matters, like think about what actually matters. And so, I would prioritize my sleep over studying. Obviously I would still study. It's not like ditch all of your requirements, but it's just like prioritize the right things, and then you'll be able to study better in 1 hour than you will in 4 hours if you're like sleep deprived and drinking a bunch of caffeine and all this stuff. So you really need to prioritize the right things and give yourself time. um, and I think it's interesting too because you can be doing all of these things with your diet and working out and fixing your posture and massaging and stretching and all this stuff, but a lot of it is emotional, and people don't realize that that's a huge part of like your physical health is, if you have trauma that you need to go through, or you just have like emotions trapped in you, or like things that you went through that you haven't really processed, that can cause like an effect on your body. Or, if you have an eating disorder and you've never like talked about that to anyone, or you're still in that mindset and you haven't gotten help, like that can play a big role in your stress. So I think like addressing things physically and mentally at the same time is super important.
And with that point, I suppose physically, with exercise, a lot of people are maybe quote unquote using it for just weight loss. What would your recommendations for individuals who are, I suppose, exercising? What exercise do you recommend to people?
Yeah, so I recommend functional patterns. I started doing it a couple of months ago, and I thought I knew how to do a squat. I did not. I was doing it completely wrong. And you just really go back to the basics and you learn like about how your body actually works, and you can take it really slow to where like it's digestible, and you're focusing on like improving your posture versus like weight loss. And when you improve like your posture and your muscles, you massage your fascia and like rehydrate them through something like functional patterns, like you feel better without exhausting yourself or stressing yourself out. So I think again, people are focusing on the wrong things here. And with exercise, I think in moderation. Like it can be a way to de-stress, but it shouldn't be used as something for weight loss, because then, that should just be a product if you like need to lose weight. A lot of people don't need to lose weight. So you just need to focus on feeling good and connecting with your body and like connecting with the right people and all of that. Yeah.
And once I suppose that you improve on your nutrition and your foods you are consuming, inevitably, I suppose that is going to help you to lose weight in a healthy way, because
Exactly.
exercise is one of those things that people mightn't see it is a form of stress that people often overdo, whether it's with high intensity pacing up and down roads or beaches, or elevating the heart rate to excessive amounts, that putting you under more stress on top of already college work or with family members, any other, I suppose, uh, excessive problems that you are currently having. It's the build-up of those things that cause excessive inflammation, and inflammation is the root cause of all diseases.
Yeah, absolutely.
I suppose I'd love you to maybe tell the listeners maybe a little bit about where's the best place for them to contact or reach out to you if they wanted to either have a chat with you, or I know there's a product that you're currently promoting, the crisps or the chips.
Oh, yes. So yes, you can follow me on Instagram at the olive oil queen, or on TikTok at olive oil queen. I've been more active on Instagram lately. But yes, I have an olive oil that I recommend. I have a few like clothing brands I recommend, and recently I've been promoting Masa, which is a chip company, like a tortilla chip company, and it's organic nixtamalized corn. So it's the nixtamalization helps it like helps you to digest it, and it's organic, so no crazy amount of pesticides. And the chips are fried in grass-fed beef tallow, which is unheard of. Tortilla chips and grass-fed beef tallow. And they're absolutely delicious. They have an amazing crunch. They're not, poisonous. And a lot of these seed oils, they're super, super processed to where they have zero flavor, but the beef fat just adds so much flavor. And they're salty. Ugh, they're amazing. So you can check those out in my bio. They're called Masa Chips. And yeah, it's pretty exciting to see the seed oil revolution start to happen, and people realizing that you don't have to be like miserable to be healthy. Like being healthy is great. You eat delicious food like raw milk and masa chips and extra virgin olive oil and all of this stuff. So yeah.
Healthy lifestyle is including foods that you can get local, that you enjoy, and you can get fresh for optimal health is really important. And that's would be my major preference as well. Stop picking diets. Start nourishing your body. Start doing things that are, I suppose, as natural as you possibly can. Getting out in sunlight. Grounding is another thing that I regularly recommend to people, and that's in the likes of the book that I wrote just there very recently, and the point of which that you're a major advocate for all those things, and I suppose it's a major credit to you. And I just want to say thanks so much for coming on the likes of this podcast, and I'll be putting all the likes of your show in the show notes, your handles for Instagram, for TikTok, and the likes of those chips that you can most certainly get your hands on.
Awesome. Yeah, it's just use common sense, like what makes sense? Me to go to the grocery store and get coconut oil that was shipped from, the Philippines, or grass-fed tallow from my local farm down the street. Like a lot of it is just common sense. But yeah, it's been great talking about all this stuff, and I think it's really important for more people to know, and I'm excited to see this, blow up.
Yeah, even more so than it is, because you are most certainly all over Instagram and TikTok, that's for sure.
Yeah, exciting stuff.
Brilliant. All right, I'd just like to say thanks so much for coming on to the latest podcast. I'd like to end these shows by saying stay tuned, stay classy, and keep it organic.